Okay. All right. Welcome everyone to the Bristol Town Council Budget Workshop, our first of multiple nights. It's Monday, March 15th. We could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I got to tell you, I'm so used to the 2-second delay of everyone saying that together. So, exactly. So to everyone here and everyone watching from not here, we have decided to do the budget workshops here at Town Hall. As you can see, we are spread out. We are compliant with CDC guidelines. Couple of housekeeping things for this evening. First one is that if you're speaking, and I'm doing it right now and I have my mask on, it's okay to take your mask down because we're spread out correctly. But if you're not speaking, if you could leave your mask up, that's absolutely fine. So, for example, the chief will be speaking and the administrator and all of us will be. So it's okay to take your mask down while you're speaking, but once you're done speaking, if you put it back up again. I think I mentioned it already, but the microphones are more for home than they are here. You can probably hear a little bit of amplification, and that'll be an ongoing thing. That we'll make sure that it'll be nice and clear for everyone. Besides that, I don't think I skipped anything. So what we're going to do is move it to the administrator and have us hear from him and take the next step. Mr. Administrator.
Great, thank you, Chairman. It's nice to see everybody healthy here at Town Hall again. So tonight we have the fiscal year 2022 Town of Bristol budget to present to the Town Council. It is the administrator's recommendation. After speaking in meeting with all of the department heads, and the finance director, Julie Gausha, was extremely instrumental in helping making this recommendation to the council. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to paraphrase the letter that was submitted at the beginning of the budget binder. The town of Bristol's municipal expenditures increased by $1,264,165. And the non-property tax revenues increased by $1,230,437, resulting in a net expenditure increase over the last fiscal year of $33,728. The recommended budget includes a 2% increase for the school district, or approximately $557,114. The overall fiscal year 22 budget increase recommended by the town administrator is $590,843. So that is the recommended increase, $590,843. The goals in this budget were to invest in operations that would increase long-term efficiencies and revenues, providing ways to continue with long-term infrastructure improvements and maintenance while lessening the tax burden on Bristol residents during the unprecedented pandemic. The town's capital expenditure budget increased from $50,000 to $500,000, establishing a true capital budget and reflecting the 5-year capital improvement plan of the town. To do this, the use of fund balance increased from $736,068 to $1 million. The unassigned fund balance as of June 30th, 2020 was $8,081,075, or 15.4% of the general fund revenues. If you recall, the town audit presentation for fiscal year 2020 included a recommendation of carrying a 12 to 15% fund balance. The recommended budget includes an increase to the Department of Public Works operations to support in-house trash hauling to the central landfill. This investment is expected to save money and provide more efficiencies and control in the trash and recycling process. The Harbor Master's Department budget was increased to support the marina expansion that is projected to generate general fund revenues for the town. This recommended budget anticipates increasing the tax rate by 41 cents per thousand from $14.07 to $14.48, a 2.9% increase. The portion of the 41-cent increase attributed to town appropriations is 37.9%, and the portion attributed to the school district, the portion is 62.1%. The town is continuing to improve and upgrade the wastewater treatment facility. This year, electrical upgrades and solid handling projects are planned with funds from the SRF loans. The annual sewer use fee is estimated to increase from $530 in fiscal year 2020 to $568.50. It's my belief that this budget will provide the support needed to keep Bristol healthy and secure as we begin to exit the challenges of a pandemic and prepare for the future. And I would also keep in mind that this budget does not have any projections on stimulus or relief funds. So this is as if there were no funding in federal aid coming to Bristol. That's looking forward to explaining what I stated here in further detail when we get to the departments or at any time. But I'm confident that this will position the town very well moving forward, take care of those long-term infrastructure investments, and help us navigate right out of this pandemic in the future. So this budget is it's a modest to slight increase, but I think there's certainly some great benefits to this budget, which I'm looking forward to sharing with you.
Outstanding. So I'd like to, because we haven't had this opportunity in so long, to keep this open and we'll call it semi-casual, kind of a little departure from our standard, as we do in most of our budget. But I wanted to say too that this is just a pleasure. Thank you all I'm glad that we're all together. I'm glad that we're able to have this much more fluid conversation. I think it'll move it along. To that end, unless there's objection from the council, certainly we're going to go through all the scheduled items. Unless there's objection, I'd like to go through as much as we possibly can this evening, with a goal of making sure that Thursday is probably just a little bit of, if anything, a little bit of upkeep, a little bit of maybe questions that need to be answered, and then we're done on Thursday and we won't meet Monday. We haven't in the past, unless you have objection, anyone who has objection, and we'll see how the evening goes. I mean, if it goes too late in the evening, certainly we can make adjustments accordingly. But unless everybody's, or if everybody's fine with it, let's go through as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, no objections, Mr. Chairman. I think we're all pretty seasoned. We've gone through the budget, so I don't think this is like a lot of active reteaching. So
I was thinking about that.
I'm good with that.
All of us, this is the third year that we've all been together to go through this. So it's good stuff. Okay. Mr. Administrator?
We have Chief Lynch here with us for the police department. Chief, would you like to give an opening remark about the police department?
I want to thank the administrator. Certainly, it's a pleasure working with the finance director, having somebody with great historical knowledge of the police department's operations as they attribute to the finances, and certainly working with the council for the last year. New for this year was a goal that I set in my first 90 days was to issue an annual report, one to the town leaders, the administrator, and also to the council for the support and, to document the accomplishments of the Bristol Police Department. I believe you all should have received that from the town clerk, and that's the first time that we've had a public annual report. Sometimes it's been an internal working document that has gone to the town official or the town administrator from the police chief. But this is the first time in concert with our accreditation standards that we're reaching out not only to town officials, but also to the residents of Bristol. And that report can be found on our webpage. And it's under the Transparency and Accountability portal. So all of the residents can see where last year's funding went, the programs that we did. Some of the highlights obviously are technology upgrades, our K-9 Brody program, expansion of the school resource officer, and all of the community outreach programs that we have with our leadership camps and the different attributes that the department had. I'm extremely pleased with the trajectory of the police department and the accomplishments that we've had, and those are all outlined in detail in that annual report. And it's something of a hallmark that I hope to have on an annual basis so that you can reflect upon the good work that the council approves. We go back into the field and implement for the residents of Bristol.
Thanks, Chief. So to remind everybody, we're on 701, which is police. If you want to get to 701, if you're not there already. Chief, what we typically, and you have done in the past, is I'd like to just get to you. We don't have to go through each item. If you could just hit what you believe are the salient points. And once you do that, I'll open it up to the council for questions that they have.
Year over year, there wasn't many drastic increases in my budget proposal that is under the police chief's domain for financial responsibility. Some of the, historical cost of salary, benefits and pension costs are set by other denominators. So under the chief's purview, there was an increase in detailed wages. If you recall last year when we went into COVID, that line item generally spent around $100,000 to $102,000. That's for the security, traffic control, for all of the programs that the police department partakes in, but particularly 4th of July festivities, whether it's the concert series, the British Car Show, 4th of July, 5th of July this year will be the parade, but predominantly that line item funded the security, traffic safety, the ancillary police forces that came in, and there was a reduction to 57,000 because we knew that COVID was on and there was possibility of a delay. But we believe the services will be returned. To what scale, we're still working on that. That's why we didn't ask for the full 102,000 that we did historically. We will work with the $80,000 that the town has eloquently proposed in order to provide that. It looks like a green light for all of the services that the 4th of July committee is putting forward. And we believe that there may be some limited restrictions as far as maybe concert size, participation in numbers, and that may help reduce some of the costs that we historically have had in that line item. But we're prepared to deliver a full cachet of services if need be with that dollar amount.
Chief, where do you see 4th of July this year? For example, capacity, if normally it's 100%, where do you see it this year if you had to put on your Swami hat, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, in my part-time role, I have a volunteer role as a president of a beach club front that, caters to thousands of people. So I watch all of the changes extremely closely, not only as a police chief, but also putting on a similar type festivities for owners and members there. So, restaurants, we're looking at 66% capacity in those particular venues. So we know we haven't reached 100%. And we know that this Friday, and the Department of Health has said that within the month, they do plan on coming up with outside regulations. So we're watching it very closely, but we do see, if you follow some of the reports that come out of CDC, there still will be limitations to the end of the calendar year. It will take some time until everybody is vaccinated. So that rollout may not make it for the bulk or the lion's share of services or programs that the town puts on. But, with the money that we have, I'm confident that we will deliver, a safe work product for any event that the town puts on.
Thanks, Chief. So hearing that, I'd like to open it up. What questions does the council have at the moment? Mary.
Thank you. So in the gas and oil, Julie, maybe you can answer this, and the same with the copy machine, is that just a reduction because it was, we could live with the amount, or is it because you moved some of this to another central line?
No, we built this based on historical values. So we looked at the last 3 years to see how we were performing within the budget, and then that's.
Sometimes we'll take something out of one and then put it in, like they're going to be in town hall. Okay.
Yep, no separations this year. Same categorization of last year, just
Okay.
reflection.
If I could give you a comparison. So right now, we're at what we say percentage of the year passed in the budget. And I had this conversation and I got this education today, and it helped me better understand it. So for all purposes, everybody that comes in front of you, we're really at the 70% mark for the budget, which means we've gone through the fiscal year about 70% of the way. So up till today, in that particular line item, prices of gas for the police cars and oil for the police cars, it's been lower the last year, the last couple of years. So we're tracking at about 47%. So we are, currently tracking to have a surplus in that particular line item.
Tim?
Sure. Hey, Chief. Good evening. Thank you for your budget and thanks for all of what your department does. I hear from a lot of residents and they're very pleased with the police department. So that's awesome. So keep doing what you're doing. You answered the detail wages for me. I did have a question on the building maintenance in regards to that building. It is quite an old building. What's going on there? How is that building doing? What do you foresee coming down the pipe more than anything? Because I think it's a modest increase, but I don't think I think it's getting, personally, I think we would need to start looking into a better building down the line.
It is currently Roger Williams University is doing the feasibility study on the current building of whether or not it meets the current and future needs for the residents of the town. And I'm excited to see what the outcomes of that particular study will be. But obviously the building, I believe it's 77, 78 timeframe of when it was constructed. And obviously, we do have some concerns. If you were to come in and to use the women's room right now, the wall is opened up because of the piping had rotted away from the walls. And so we're repairing some of that to not allow some of the sewer gas smells to enter into the building. It is breaking down, but we are doing emergency and long-range repairs to it. Since I've become police chief, I'm proud to say that we toured the multi-million-dollar complex that North Providence built with Google money. Mm-hmm. So we took down all the different paint codes and the cheaper things that we could do, and we've repainted the facility completely inside. I'm sure you saw maybe an article that was done in the Phoenix. Mm-hmm. COVID allowed us to take some of the officers that calls of service were a little bit lower last year in 2020. And we did all of the ceiling tiles and we repainted the building with the cooperation from the folks at DPW. We've got some modern, we've redone the detective division, some of the offices. We've upgraded our computer system, our cameras inside. So we are delivering a very high product. I'm very proud, as you said, I want to thank you for acknowledging the work that the police department does. We are firing on all cylinders. The officers are doing an exemplary job. I am extremely proud to serve as your police chief, but I'm even more proud of the work that the officers are putting out into the community. And I humbly believe that we are making a difference. I mean, law enforcement throughout the country is seeing some challenges. Here, it's just a different product. And the department and the officers seem to embrace this community. There's a fantastic marriage, and we're delivering, I think, an exceptional product. Just look at the testing clinics. We were the one only community to build, in concert with the fire chief, to build, a testing COVID-19 in the town, at the town administrator and council chairperson's direction to build that in short order. And we obviously morphed into a state-of-the-art vaccination clinic at the town level. So a lot of great accomplishments, just with everybody working in concert with each other. So I'm very proud of that fact. But the police station, I'm extremely pleased with. We updated the aesthetics on the outside of the building. Some of the landscaping was overgrown. Inside, we've applied similar to like town hall, modern palette colors, carpeting colors, and accessibility. One of the things that we did in the front was there really wasn't a room for a victim of a crime or someone to come in to speak with an officer rather than entering into the building and going by the cell area. Mm-hmm. It was just an initial poor design, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. And we took shared office space, and if you come into the front floor, we built a community room for people to come in, meet with an officer, to speak about an issue, to file a report, and they don't have to come into the four walls of the police station as if they're in custody or in our inner surroundings. So I'm very happy with that. It adds a softer palette to it. And you'll see soon around the corners, we've got a grant. We are one of the only police departments in the state that will be a safe station. If you go by some of the Providence fire departments, if somebody is in a crisis for opioid or any type of overdose type situation, whether it's alcohol or a medication or a drug, we want folks to know that they can come to the Bristol Police. We're open 365, 247. And we want to let folks know that we're available to help you. and to get you the emergency resources and the long-term resources that you have. And that goes very well with the community room that we built, so folks don't feel like they have to come in and they're being detained by the police. We are simply doing that because we are open, and we're inviting, and we want to help people that maybe find themselves in trouble.
I look forward to seeing the feasibility study then. Thank you.
Tony?
First of all, thank you for the report, and if you don't mind, I'll be stealing a few things from you to be used elsewhere. I don't even tell you where. You know, but it really was a very comprehensive study. I mean, a comprehensive report, and certainly is very appreciated to lay out all the things, the accomplishments that are in just overall the operation of the department. So very much appreciated.
I appreciate that very much.
You good? Should I speak toward him or toward the microphone?
Toward him,
Okay.
the microphones, it's impressive
Yeah.
how much they pick up. So
Okay.
I can't stress that enough, everyone.
Thank you, Chief. I don't really have much to ask you about the budget. I mean, it's a pretty solid budget. I did want to follow up on Councilman Texera's comments that I'm very impressed by the report. And I think a lot of folks in town appreciate the transparency and, being able to have something like that and being able to share something like that online. So it's really nice to see that kind of stuff coming out. I guess the other question I had is any stories on the education? I know that there's a line item for the education for some of the men and women if they decide that, they want to go to grad school or finish up a degree or something like that. Have any of them been able to take advantage of that?
Yes, if you noticed, that is another one of the increases that is in the budget, and that's an unfunded state mandate that unfortunately gets forced down to the municipalities without funding, from state government. While it's a great tool to have an educated workforce, but I don't know if, the administrator and I have been able to work out an agreement for training, not so much undergraduate and graduate work, but Roger Williams is in a partnership with us where they're giving us free training for the officers. They're guaranteeing us one spot in every class, but up to 3 if there's availability. And that's huge when it comes to getting a workforce that's trained on all of the issues that impact law enforcement, such as de-escalation training. When an officer goes into a hot situation, how does he cool things down? And there's a lot of good trainings on how to de-escalate, situations that we all see every night, on the night news. So it's imperative that we're getting bias-based policing training. We're getting first-line, mid-level training for our supervisors in our higher level managers on the police department. But that line item is an unfunded state mandate. And you do see an increase. That is the only one line item that's tracking in a negative direction currently in the fiscal year that we're in. And that's simply because I just can't throttle back when an officer signs up for a college course, what it costs, and how many officers take advantage of that program. But one of the things that I'm working with from a management point of view and in the new collective bargaining agreement will be by February 1, any officer that wants to take a course in the spring, summer, or following fall has to let the chief's office know by February 1. So we'll send out a couple of emails, January 1, January 15th, with the estimated cost. So when we prepare the budget, I can then go to Julie and say, I have 7 officers that are taking this many courses, and this is what the cost is going to be. So on a going forward basis, that's going to be a known and measurable amount rather than be kind of estimating, an officer how many courses that they're going to take. It's one of those things I don't have a lot of control over.
Well, I think it was last year, right? It was the first year that it was part of the unfunded mandate. And I remember there being a spike last year.
There was, I put an emphasis on, education, with the officers. I feel as though it's important to have the force and the officers certainly, obtain an undergraduate and a graduate degree.
Well, it's great too when they, if they decide that, their time with the police force is over, they'll, have training that they'll be able to build on or
That's
something
true.
like that, or prepare for leadership and
That is
kind
true.
of thing. So.
Just had one
Please.
other quick comment, and that is, I just love the safe station. concept. I think that's really important. That's so much of what is going on nationally in some ways. I mean, and I think we've always, you know, our police department has always been actively engaged in dealing with community partners such as East Bay Mental Health and so forth. And to take that a little step further, I think that's wonderful. As far as the education issue, that's been an ongoing thing, as you know, in Rhode Island for many years, especially when people were getting their law degrees through the cities and towns. However, I guess my question is, I would imagine it depends on the age and background of your department. It kind of ebbs and flows, right? If you have a lot of younger officers, there may be a more higher cost, and then people are sort of there for a while. And is that how it tends to run just in police departments in general, I would imagine?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, we have a lot of young officers, and, you know, the benchmark to come in is, you know, if you have a military, you know, background, you can join the force, and a lot of those officers now are taking advantage of the opportunity to earn, you know, a degree from higher education. And so some of the older officers are engaged in master's degree programs, and that's where some of the cost have increased.
Because you have to have at least an associate's or military background to apply, am I correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Chief, the council's eyes tend to focus on changes, particularly higher ones. One that is in here, and there's narrative in here, but I just asked that you just take a moment to kind of share a little bit more. As detail wages are up 38%. Again, that's our eyes tend to focus on those large changes. The narrative is there, but if you could just take a moment to share with us and as importantly the public on why. So it's up. So detail wages is 105,100, and it shows an increase of 38%.
Yeah, that was that first line item that I was describing. Historically, that number comes in around $102,000. That's when the town of Bristol has all of its events. That's town beach security, starting in the summertime, going into, you know, fall. This winter we had the Santa Claus workshop down on Hope Street. Hope Estate at the old Dunkin' Donuts facility there. So we provided, you know, security and traffic control for folks that were coming in, find them a place to park, make sure that proper social distancing went on. And then that takes us right into the different seasons and all of the programs associated with the 4th of July. But that 102 broke down to, you know, costs for Bristol police officers, retirees, officers from other agencies, and different matrons that we brought in, Christmas festivals. Just so that you know, like the 4th of July, there are 100 posts associated with just that one day, the 4th of July, and with officers that are marching in the parade. So at times we bring in 60 to 70 other officers from other disciplines just on that one day. And this year here, you know, where the fireworks is the night before, concert series, I understand, I haven't witnessed it, you know, tends to require different varying traffic and security controls for those events.
I think one of the things, if I could say, I mean, we have to remember that a year ago when we were sitting here, you know, and it became clearer that COVID was going to be, you know, a very serious thing. I mean, one of the first places that we knew we could cut the budget was that detail wage. So I just like, you know, like.
And I was concerned, honestly, when I walked out of the building, because I knew that number historically was X, and you reduced it, and no matter what, it's always going to look like I'm asking for more money, even though you guys cut it, and that's where we're at tonight. And, you know, so we kind of picked a halfway point because we're just not 100% certain that, you know, we're going to be at 100% capacity. So that's why we didn't ask for the 102. We feel as though that some restrictions will be throttled back. And I also have some creative ways of saving some money in those particular line items. Plan on using the fire police a little bit more in an extended role. And we've added a few retirees to the security detail. And obviously the administrative staff will be there volunteering its time for those events to control some of the costs.
I appreciate you kind of not going to a full amount, you know, because I do think, I mean, you know, the president is saying small groupings and we're all preparing for big things. Who knows what I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. by 4th of July, but also just so that we're not putting all that money right back in, but we could do it as some of the revenue that I'm sure that we've lost over the last year with COVID, as it starts to return back to us as well. So thank you for that.
And outstanding job, because I focused on one item and there was really only one item and so outstanding to you and you, Mr. Administrator, we say this all the time, but it's worth repeating, is that we get, and Julie, of course, the treasurer, we get a sound budget in front of us that does not require us to replenish things that should have been there in the first place or remove things that shouldn't be. So this council appreciates it, that we start in a great place, and if it's a place that we can end also, we will. So we all do, we really do. Any questions on this item before we move forward? Obviously, Chief will be speaking to us about animal control. Anything else you want to go over in police before we move forward?
So Brody's rates are great.
Brody's rates are great, I've heard. So
Yes.
Just want to say, like, if we could get him
So
out
I'll give a
there.
shout out, obviously, to the Bristol Elks who finance the Brody operation. It does not cost any taxpayer dollars. And he was in Somerset last week. I think there's going to be a big article in the Centennial. If you go on our Facebook, you'll see that they're looking at adopting that program out there, and Officer Medeiros went out there, and that whole community just fell in love with the whole Bristol concept. So we're not only in Bristol, we're making an impact, outside of Bristol with that particular program. So that's, I think when I'm done, that will be the one that'll be on the top of my success list.
Should have brought him tonight.
Yeah, take a look at it on Facebook. It really is it's a good article on Keith, and he's done a great job for us too.
he has, you're right. Yeah. All right, so if there's nothing left on 701, everybody okay? And obviously we can come back to anything, and I didn't say this, but our normal course of action is if we can't get clarity on a particular item, we'll save that as a question as we move forward. That way we don't stick on a particular point, and we'll keep the agenda moving along. All right, so hearing no other conversation there, let's move on to 702, which is of course the animal control. Chief, your ball again.
Another area that saw some improvement in 2020, just rolled around. We just got certification. We have become a DEM certified animal shelter. I can assure you that's one of the highest thresholds that you can't have, because during an emergency, a pandemic, or if there was ever a hurricane or a major catastrophe, we had the ability to house animals. If somebody had to, obviously we're a seaside community, folks had to evacuate, what were they going to do? Because we installed a large scale generator that was obtained through a grant process. So in 2020, we also acquired a new vehicle for our animal control officers. One of the things that you might see down, even I didn't cover it on the police department side, but due to COVID, a lot of the not that we're a big revenue generator, but some of the revenues were down just because we're not doing any fingerprinting, we're not doing any VIN inspections, and that's all done through the governor's executive order. But the shelter ran extremely successful. We've been doing some workshops with the Friends, and we'll be presenting very soon with the town administrator today on a new MOU, where we had a great meeting today and accomplished a great deal. So I think in short order, we'll be in front of the council with an MOU and how we're going to solidify current services and how we're going to expand those and have a greater role. And I'm very pleased with the operation, the cleanliness of the shelter. If anybody goes by, the response of our staff is extraordinary. And the shelter runs well within budgetary guidelines that the council sets, and it's under great management with Deb DeSilva there. I'm very, very proud of the care that the animals receive, the delivery of service by our animal control officers, and the fact that we continue to grow in, obviously becoming that DEM certified shelter in the new role that we're going to be having, with the Friends. So I feel as though that, might have been a couple of wrinkles when I first started out. We continue to look for additional revenue sources. We've got a proposal. I spoke with members of the town council in Warren, and again, have offered our services that we can board animals for some of the smaller communities to kind of reduce some of our expenditures. And we're going to continue to keep our foot on the gas pedal for that. So we're out there. I think Tiverton knows, other communities know. Portsmouth always know we're there if the agreement doesn't work out partly. But we're making that pitch out there to try to reach out to the other communities to fill the vacancy that we have.
Again, this is another department that is well-controlled finances, so making our job easier than.
I don't think there was an increase at all in any of the lines, but it was.
What questions is council?
So actually, really just let everybody know that I was talking to Chairwoman Carrie Cronin today, mainly about schools. And she was mentioning that they were very excited to be talking to you about the animal shelter. So it seems like there's a lot of positive energy to move forward there. So just want to let everybody know so you're aware.
Good news.
Let's see what
Another
happens.
opportunity? Sure.
So Chairman,
Of course. Got it, Tony?
just pretty light question, but it has to do with the salary. Debbie and Jennifer, I see one, you see two, the other one three. Any particular reason as to why there's a difference between
Yeah,
the two?
I can answer that. That's
Yeah.
actually just it is a 2% increase on prior year actual. So it's likely that the budget last year was, it could have been prior to a final salary being placed. So from an actual salary perspective, it's only a 2% increase. But from a budget perspective, it's 3% of what was budgeted last year. Does that make sense? Sometimes there's timing differences on when you'll see that kind of throughout the budget. There's timing differences on when unions settle, and so sometimes in the budget, it appears there's different increase, but by and large, it's 2% for almost
Okay.
everybody.
Since you respond to that, may I follow up with one more question? Regarding the benefits, the dental and health, did you get actual numbers from the trust? Because we've been having a little problem.
We had
Did we get those?
yes, so we got a estimated range initially, and then I asked for them to firm it up a little bit, and they gave me a little bit of a tighter range, but with no guarantees.
Okay.
So that's what I was able to get from them for all property liability, workers' comp, all of that. But if you reach out to them,
Yep.
they might be able to.
Julie, can we extrapolate that out with all of our department? Will we see savings potentially with school also?
So the school is, their premiums are totally different. They're based on their population and their experience. So I don't know what the schools are looking like, but.
But as
for us,
on
we
the town
have
end of
a-
things, we'll see some.
Yeah, so for us, it's not a savings. It's 7.5% is the projected increase for medical, 5% for dental. When we get into fixed charges budget. I can
Yep, we'll get
share
there.
more on the other
Absolutely.
insurances.
Absolutely. So staying on animal control, what questions, is there any questions? Everybody else set? Chief, before you leave, anything for us?
No, I just want to again, echo and thank you, the council, for great direction, great leadership, by the town administrator from, messages to get packed down to the council. It's been a pleasure. Certainly the last year, been on the job now for 18 months, and
Has it been that
I know they made the right decision coming here, and I'm extremely pleased and humbled to be the police chief, and echo working with the new town clerk, and certainly having the ability to have that, financial leadership is very key. I was heavily involved in the finance side in my previous position with state government, and I can tell you that got an exceptional finance director here in town. So
We couldn't agree more.
We know.
So,
I'm glad she's back.
yes.
Well, thank you for your service.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
We have the department.
Okay, everybody, we are ahead of schedule. Let's continue with that. We're going to go to 703, which is Harbor Patrol. Give the chief a moment. No rush.
Would like to thank the harbor master for volunteering down at the vaccination site. He's down there quite often. So thank you.
You had a chance to get down there 2 times. This is nice.
Welcome, Greg.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you.
Good seeing everybody.
I think this is a harbinger of good news and good things that are coming, and a lot of hard work that is this department that you've put in, and also a lot of others that have put in. So why don't you, as we've just talked about, oh, and by the way, we're going to say this a few times, is that if you're speaking, okay to take your mask down, but once you're done speaking, just put it up. You can leave yours off because you're going to be responding to questions.
No problem.
And we'll hit any points that we need to and save any questions if necessary. So Greg, if you could hit the salient points that you like to cover, and then I'll open up to the council for questions.
All right, so, this past year, we've worked diligently to get to the point where we're approved for the marina expansion, as everybody knows. We talked about the last council meeting. This week, we should be going out to bid for the fuel pier, and then hopefully the following week out to bid for the concrete docks. So we can get going on that project. So we're looking at fall construction for the marina expansion of Church Street, and then into spring opening of 2022 for the marina.
And Greg, by concrete docks, you mean the marine expansion itself?
The marine
right?
expansion itself,
Okay.
the outer docks is going to act as a wave attenuator, which is critical at this point, because if anybody's been down to the old fishing pier, which is the wave attenuator, it's pretty much non-existent anymore. We've had a lot of bad storms this past year. The wind doesn't ever want to stop blowing, so we're continually repairing stuff it's bad right now. So we're going to continue to work on that. Even though with COVID last year, we still had a pretty successful year of transient boating, a little over $30,000. So hopefully we're already getting reservations. We're completely booked for the 4th of July already. We had to just reach out back to everybody and tell them that the parade is actually on the 5th this year. So some people extended their stay or adjusted their stay. So we're excited about this summer coming up and having the fuel dock open and moving in that direction. There you go.
Thank you, Greg. Hold on just one second, Chris.
We seem to be having a video issue here, and I don't know if it's because of the lag or not, but I just want to give people who are watching at home the opportunity, or just let them know that we're working on trying to turn it back on here.
Okay, are they getting audio but not video? Is that what's happening?
That is correct.
Okay, let's confirm that no one is moving around. Everybody stayed in their seat and nothing particularly interesting is happening.
Must have been me.
Okay, so everybody comfortable moving forward? Because obviously they can hear us, so and unless someone plans on doing a tap dance, I think we can move forward. All right, beautiful. All right, so I'd like to open up to the council. What questions? What questions for Greg?
Greg, can you just tell me again, when is you said the fuel dock is going to go out for bid next week,
This week.
this week? And
This
then
week.
this week, and then you're going to have it open by the summer?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty quick construction timeline. So it's only a 2 or 3 week process. Everything is pretty much cast already when it comes here, except for the pad. They got to put the big tank on and then the fence around it. So things can move pretty quickly to get that thing up and installed. They're putting Cumberland Farms up in these speedways in a month. This is pretty simple, other than working by the water.
Greg, expand on Mary's question and talk to the public in this council about what's the benefit of having the fuel dock? It may sound obvious, but just 10,000-foot view, why?
First, the environmental factor. I mean, we have a lot of boats in the harbor. We're creeping up on 700 moorings in the harbor, and then with the marine expansion, we're going to have around 280 dock spaces, and all the transits that come into town, all the visiting boaters. So it's a lot safer using it. It's just like going to the gas station, put the nozzle on a boat and filling it up instead of taking the 5-gallon can down there. Second thing, it brings a lot of people into town, and they're going to come for a short-term or a long-term stay. And they like going up to shopping and the restaurants in town. People love Bristol because you can walk to everywhere. And they're short visits. There's 1 day, 2 days, and then they're gone, and then a fresh new group of people come in. So it's definitely going to help with the revenue. It's going to help the businesses in town. And it's going to help our local boaters, our local fishermen that have to truck down the gas in the winter through the ice and the sleet, and vice versa, the pleasure boaters when they want to fill up in the morning, go out fishing or recreation. So
Greg, the closest place to fuel up if you have a boat right now is Barrington or over in Tiverton or
Barrington Yacht Club, Tiverton, down to Portsmouth. So and it's going to help the town as well with the fleet of boats we have now, because they'll be able to fuel up there. The Coast Guard, our neighbors to the south, they don't have gas. they're actually in the midst of changing out the diesel tank. So, we'll be able to help them out. And I know like the Warren Harbor Master, they're always trucking up to East Greenwich or down in Tiverton now or not East Greenwich, but East Providence, Barrington area for fuel. So this,
I think Greg captured that well, and it's an opportunity, as we all know, when somebody comes in, if they're filling up the boat and there's transient space, and there will be a place to stay for a little while, they can come in, walk around, and walking around introduces them to restaurants and shops or just Bristol, right? So, Tony?
Chief. Chairman. Chief is Chairman. It's gonna be a combination of diesel and gas wheel.
Yeah, there will be the tank itself is a 12,000 gallon tank.
Right.
There'll be 6,000 ability for having 6,000 gallons of gas and 6,000 gallons of diesel. We'll play with those numbers as we figure out what the sale is, because you don't want to you're not going to take 6,000 gallons of diesel and throw in a tank and just hope it sells in a good time period. So we'll put a few thousand gallons in and see what happens, see how quick we go through it. The only advice I ever got from the Sandwich Harbor Master when the town up there put it in was put the biggest tank you can in, because when they know you have fuel, they're going to come. And they put 4,000 gallon tanks in. So they were constantly selling out. Now, different area, obviously, they're at the end of the Cape, end of the canal and the Cape, and they get a lot more boats through there. But, we'll figure it out as we go, and it's going to be new for all of us. We're going to be open when the Maritime Center is open, when the Harbor Patrol is there. It's going to be on demand. If we get to the point to where on a Saturday that from 10 to 4 we're busy, we're slammed, we'll hire, we're going to hire appropriately this year. That's why my salary are up to make sure we have that extra person to be able to go over there and still maintain the office and still maintain the Harbor Patrol for public safety.
Do we have any idea currently what is the used gasoline versus diesel for the folks that we have in the area? I mean, obviously, the purpose of the tank is not just for our locals, but for anyone that wants to drop in.
It's a big mix.
Right.
A lot of your larger boats they're converting to gas, outboards, because they're making 450, 500 horsepower outboards now. They're putting 3 or 4 on the back of them, 5 up to 5 or 6 sometimes. So you have that crowd, but you still have a substantial amount of diesel boats. We have 4 small diesel fishing boats in the harbor that are really looking forward to, instead of trucking it down every day. They're too small really to have one of the fuel companies come down and fill them directly. But
That seems to shine some down back into the
they'll come down
ferry. Yeah.
and we're not going to tell the ferry, because
Right.
they're working on a shoestring budget too. That hey, you got to come over to our fuel dock get fuel. I mean, the bigger fishing boats, they still can have their own fuel delivered by their own fuel truck. I mean, it's to help them out. They're all our residents, and so we're not gonna go after them and say no, you got to use our fuel tanks. But the smaller fishing boats they're excited about it.
So we're just going to take a moment and we're going to pause, and I'm going to we're going to pause the meeting just for a moment. Chris is going to restart Zoom because we're seeing you have a technical problem still. So we're just going to pause here for a moment. Chris is going to restart and we'll resume in a moment. Go ahead, Chris.